The biggest piece of advice I could give right out of the gate is you're going to get used to it and it's going to get better.
Today we're here with Jim Lyons. He's an ostomate and a cancer survivor, and I think you're going to enjoy his story. Hey, Jim, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lawrence.
Could you tell us a little bit about, how your cancer journey started and kind of what the process was for you?
Oh, sure. Yes, it was, kind of a sordid story as they all are. I was experiencing some minor prostate issues, and it just progressively got worse. After that, I was diagnosed with advanced invasive bladder cancer. And then, I was given a couple of different options at that point because it was so full blown. I had hoped for radiation and chemotherapy, but because I had a weakened heart due to a childhood birth defect, I was not able to go that route, and they suggested, taking the bladder out after a 12-week course of chemotherapy. I was very nervous about it, to say the least. It was a very scary time, and I just couldn't imagine, living life with a urostomy bag. Being a very healthy and outdoor type individual. After surgery, I had a wonderful surgeon, Dr. Eisner, in Boston, did a wonderful job, and took my bladder out. I had me fitted with my urostomy bag, and here I am today.
Wow. How long did that whole process take?
From diagnosis in probably May of 2020, and then leading up to surgery in January of 2021.
Oh, okay. Because you did your radiation and chemotherapy first, and then you went for the surgery.
Correct. Well, I did just the chemo. I had wanted to do the radiation and chemo to try and bypass the surgical removal of my bladder, but because of that prior heart condition, I could not do that. So they said that was the best decision for me, and I had complete faith in my surgeon, so my oncologist and my surgeon. So that's what I did.
So just to get clear, when you were undergoing chemotherapy, there was an expectation that maybe that would fix the issue and you would not need to have your bladder removed?
No, it was a foregone conclusion. I think it was just a matter of shrinking the cancer as much as they could prior to surgery.
Were you concerned at all about cancer spreading or other forms developing?
Interestingly enough, Lawrence, I really wasn't. I was just so focused on my recovery, getting through it in my recovery, that I really didn't think backwards. Interestingly enough, prior to this process, I like to think that I was a positive person, but in hindsight, I feel like I was kind of a negative person. But as soon as I was diagnosed, I just had this newfound positivity that I was going to beat it. And I don't know where it came from. My oncologist, I recently passed my or celebrated 5 years after surgery, and we were talking, and he said that's one thing he recalls about me was my positivity. So no, I didn't look back. I was looking forward 100%.
Wow, that's great. You hear a lot of people, everyone speaks of the mindset situation, but it's different for people, and I think some go into it with fear and some go into it with hope and optimism, which it sounds like that was your path. That's pretty cool.
Very much so. And right out of the gate, I relied on my closest friends and family for support. I knew it was going to be a team effort. I knew that's what I needed, so that was the tact I took, and it all worked out great. I mean, it's unfortunate that I did lose my bladder, but I'm here talking to you, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So tell me about the swimming. Have you always been a swimmer? And tell me a little bit about what you're doing now.
Started out as a social thing with a good friend of mine here in Concord, and we would swim Walden Pond, back and forth, and we'd talk. We'd just breaststroke and just kind of paddle across, and it was a very social thing. But then he moved back to California, and I started to pick it up a little bit more seriously year after year. So probably by 2010, I was doing, I don't know, maybe 200 miles a year, all outdoors, all open water swimming, no pool swimming whatsoever. And I had been doing that religiously for years. It was a huge stress relief for me. I'd come home from work and I'd go swim a mile, mile and a half, and I could just leave my day out in the water. And then unfortunately, once I got sick, it was very sporadic. Once I had my got my cancer, it was very sporadic swimming at best. And then in the 5 years since, I've also had a couple of other surgeries, unfortunately. This year, I started as part of my recovery back in November from my heart surgery. I was recovered, but I wasn't swim recovered. So I started in November pool swimming, which I had never done before. And I carried that over starting the year. So I've been swimming earlier in the year, 4 days a week, but now I'm up to 6, 7 days a week. And like I said in my video, I'm getting pretty close to 200 miles for the year already. So it's going to be a really good year for me if everything keeps going well.
What are some of the challenges with, having a urostomy bag when you're swimming like that? Has it been difficult? What kind of prep do you do? That kind of thing.
Initially, it was finding the right combination. Did I want to just go with my urostomy bag? Did I want to wear the belt that you can get, or did I want to wear my stealth belt? And basically, what I've decided on, or the thing that's worked best for me, is wearing my neoprene stealth belt. And what I do is, if I'm open water swimming, I wear what's called buoyancy shorts. They're basically like neoprene shorts to give you a little bit more buoyancy for your legs. So I wear my stealth belt outside my shorts, just in the nice pouch. And when I'm pool swimming, I wear the neoprene belt in the pool, and I wear that tucked into my regular swim trunks.
I was just curious if you've ever had a leak while you're swimming.
Not while I'm swimming, no. I mean, I've had some leaks before. Usually it seems to me the leaks that I get are around the mount and the bag mount. Maybe it's been in my closet and it's been too hot. Maybe it was just off a little bit in, when they made them. I don't know. So that's about the extent of the leakage that I have. I've had a couple of night bag failures where my night bag has gotten pulled off, unfortunately. But I've got that all covered, so that's fine. But as far as leak swimming, no, nothing, no problems whatsoever. The mount and everything stays nice and tight, and I'm good. I'm good to go.
What about like when I get in the water for 20 minutes or so, I do get the gumming around my barrier. Do you have any like do you find that after you're swimming, that the barrier can gum up and lose some of the adhesion? Do you find any of that issue?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Actually, look, I take that back. Sometimes when I get into the shower afterwards, I'll notice at the top and stuff, I see it kind of puckering a little bit, the mount puckering a little bit, but I'll just press it right back down and it's fine. It just stays exactly in place. So I'm in the water sometimes. If I do 3 miles, I'm in the water for almost 2 hours. So
That's amazing. Um, so you're getting your lifeguard certification. What's the deal with that?
yeah, so I certified as a lifeguard. That was the first big challenge that I wanted to give myself after the cancer surgery. So I thought of something completely radical, something I'd never done before. So I thought, why not become a lifeguard? So I certified as a Red Cross certified lifeguard.
Do you work as a lifeguard like part-time somewhere?
I am a part-time lifeguard for the town of Concord, yes.
And is that a pool or is that like an open water?
We have a town beach on the pond here. It's a 44-acre pond, fresh water, very clean. And then we also have an indoor four-pool complex in town. Dive well, 11-lane lap pool, kiddie pool, warm water pool, and that's where I lifeguard.
You mentioned some, your positive attitude and you're optimistic and all that, but there had to be some down days, I'm guessing. What were some of the biggest emotional challenges that you experienced when you had your diagnosis or even just through your medical journey?
Well, the initial diagnosis was horrible. I mean, it was just absolutely horrible. I mean, my attitude right out of the gate was, I am not getting a bag. I refuse to get a bag. I am not going to live with a bag. It was the absolute most horrible thing that you could have said to me at the time. So I wanted absolutely no part of that. But once I talked it through with my oncologist and a few other doctors getting second and third and fourth opinions, I felt it was the right move for me, and uh, I didn't want to know anything about it. Prior going into surgery, I did absolutely no research. The way that it turned out was 100% different than I thought it would be. So I'm glad that I didn't do the research and stuff, but I would say that, as far as the down days, those early days were the hardest. And then after the surgery, having to, seeing it and, living with it, that those first initial couple of months, seeing how it affected my everyday life because I just didn't have that confidence that I was positive, but I didn't have the confidence, with this big honking urostomy bag, sticking through my t-shirts and my shirts and whatnot. So that was pretty hard at first, but once again, I think as I had said before, once somebody had told me about the stealth belt, and I had gotten one of those, and I started to wear it. It made me feel a lot more confident. So that was a big turning point for me. Whereas I had that confidence to get out and enjoy everyday life like I did before.
Let's talk about some of that support you had from your family, your wife, and maybe your extended family, or do you have children?
I do, two daughters, yes.
Okay. How did that, how did that play out in your journey? Like, how important was it to you to have the support from them versus your own internal support?
I mean, it was very important. My youngest daughter, who lived in California, actually drove here during the height of the pandemic, sleeping in her car as she traveled cross country to come and take care of me for a month prior to my surgery. So that was really nice. But family is very, my sister, my brother, my nieces, my nephews. Um, my daughters, my wife, obviously. And my wife just took the ball. She was, she ran the show for as far as scheduling appointments, and I've never seen somebody not take no for an answer as much as she did. Uh, it was pretty funny. I found out what a tiger she really was when dealing with doctors. But great support from my wife, my children. Like I said, brother, sister, nieces, and nephews, and then my closest friends. I mean, that was one of the big ones for me. We've always been very close. We've been friends for over 50 years, and but everybody was calling, texting, emailing, sending edible arrangements. You name it. People were just really wonderful, and it really meant the world to me. I don't feel I would have gotten through it as well without that support.
So what challenges do you still face?
I'm looking for new challenges. That's why I'm talking to you. As far as new challenges, I'm just looking forward to continuing, with my swimming. That's a big one for me this year, getting my lifeguard certification. Yeah, I've got a lofty goal in the back of my mind for mileage this year, but we'll see if that happens.
What's the
Uh,
number? What's the number?
I don't think I'm going to hit it because I'd have to be kind of crazy to do it. But for me, 350 would be pretty remarkable.
Okay, we're gonna hold you accountable to that. So
Yeah,
now that that's been documented, let's make sure we get on track, Jim.
325 is probably more realistic, but 350 would be sweet.
Wow.
And as far as other challenges, I think just continuing to find new challenges. I know I'm going to start volunteering at a local organization soon. I've already talked to them a little bit. Um, that's a good one. Yeah, just living life. I guess that's probably the biggest challenge. Just moving on and living life.
You've been diagnosed with cancer, you get through the experience. How does that change your worldview?
How does that change my worldview? Um, in what sense? Just like how do I feel about the world? How do I feel about society?
Well, for me, cancer diagnosis was humbling, and so it reduced some of the arrogance I may have had, and that humility kind of just checked my ego a little bit or a lot. So I guess when I say how did it affect your worldview, I guess I'm referring to that. Like, how did you shift how you saw yourself and maybe your role in the world after your diagnosis, if at all? Maybe it didn't. Maybe that didn't occur.
Oh, no, it definitely made a big difference. Like I said, it made me a much more positive person than I had ever been before. Yes, it was very humbling, how at a second's note or an instance notice like that you could be diagnosed with such a horrible disease. In my mind at the time, it was the worst possible thing, cancer. Um, so yes, it was very humbling. As far as the rest, the rest of my outlook goes, I would say that's probably the biggest thing. That's probably my biggest change.
So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is brand new to having an ostomy?
The biggest piece of advice I could give right out of the gate is you're going to get used to it and it's going to get better. It becomes, I don't know about you, but I know for me, it's become second nature. It's just I don't, at a very short time after the surgery, um, I've always been a realist. So, basically immediately after surgery, I know this is my world. And, just get used to it and it's going to get better. And it really has. It has its moments. It's, sometimes tough with the, when swimming so much and having that wet mount, and it never completely drying sometimes it seems, and that's nagging scratching that you can get down there sometimes. But yeah, the best piece of advice I can say is be positive about it, and it's going to get better. You will get used to it, and it will get better. And I think a lot of that has to do with your attitude. If you're, a naysayer and you think that, oh, this isn't going to work for me, and oh my God, I'm always having leaks, and oh, I made a mess. You know, if you feel like that, then it's not going to be a success. But, if you look at it proactively and take all the positive steps, listen to what people have to say, and you'll be fine.
What would you like people to say about the way you handled your experience?
That's exactly how, if I ever got cancer, that's exactly how I would like to handle it.
Okay, like that.
No, seriously, like, because I once again, I felt very positive. I know my doctor told me I was positive. My wife told me I was positive. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. You'd like, in a sense, it's basically that, you feel like you'd want people to perceive you as potential role model, and that's a good thing. I
Yeah,
th
very much so.
Yeah, man. I appreciate your time, man. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Lauren. It's great talking to you, and thank you for everything. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, all right. Take care.